I don't know what you would really call that. It would just be one of those. Is it just always a coincidence? I don't know. But at the end of the day, you can see some of this. Why it was chosen, Bryce, I can only tell you from the stories and the different people that I've spoken to. Nobody really knows. I mean, look, if we take a break and we move now to the Ellsworth sites. Okay. Sturgis. All right.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's sad because if you look at some of the early photographs that I have of Sturgis, it didn't look that way. Bill Huey sent me one. It's a classic. The antenna silo doors is open and his little daughter is sitting in front of him. Right? Well, that's all gone now, right? Fewer. I mean, he's gone. God rest his soul. But I mean, it's just he went back in there, and I'm still not too sure it was profitable the way I see it. I mean, I don't know, breaking that concrete up and what your total costs were, your expenses versus what did you make. I'm not sure. The big word is that the diesels and the generators were there, still in the powerhouse.
Why didn't they take those out?
Well, I mean, it's I don't know what they call the rumor. I called BS. Sorry, I did.
Well, you can see
I have an Air Force report that said all of them were pulled out and where they went. Most of them went to Southeast Asia because Vietnam was just, firing up.
And that could be.
Some of them went to the Philippines.
That's right. But when you look at it structurally, and as far as the silos, you don't know, but when you look at that backhoe tearing the LCC down, there's no graffiti. It's just.
Oh yeah, I mean Matt Sakella, he was one of the launch guys. He was teaching. He was a standboard instructor at Ellsworth, and he sent me a partial -1, some of the checklists for the Titan 1. And he had the neatest story regarding. Damn it, I can't think of the site. It wasn't New Underwood. It was the other one.
Sturgis?
It wasn't Sturgis. No, it was the other one. It was owned by the water municipality. But anyway, he told me the story. He was walking in there and see on the excuse me, on the equipment terminals. If you look directly above the little elevator shaft, you will see the plug in the concrete. And how it is marked on the surface, but the only way it's marked is by the pylons, the posts in the ground basically indicate where its location is. And this guy that bought 4C, you saw how he dug down?
Yeah.
And he tried to remove those plugs, but he couldn't get those plugs to budge. So he had to try something else. I don't know what it would be. And then now he's on to the access portal.
Right. Well, I'll stop you right there just for a second. Those plugs, they're reinforced with kind of a steel bulkhead. And even on top of Datum, it looks like there's a steel round bulkhead.
Oh, there are. I shot those pictures looking up at them.
So
you could see the tar, Bryce, that had leaked down through when they sealed them.
Uh-huh.
And they were not removed during salvage. I can tell you that now. I don't believe it in a minute. Because the indicators are still there on the surface, and who would have put those back?
Right.
Salvagers would have never done that. So I absolutely agree with that. But for some reason, I can't think of his name. He couldn't get these. He had some pretty heavy-duty equipment. If you've watched any of those YouTube, I highly recommend it. I mean, I can't fathom what that equipment's costing him.
Yeah, the 4C guy is great. I'm waiting. I just wait on this new stuff.
I mean, it's like, I get a kick out of it for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's kind of cute. And but I just enjoy it. He was very nice. He made a compliment about my dad. And,
oh, yeah.
And I wrote him back, and And I always try to, and it's like any site owner, Bryce, that they want to get started. I applaud them, and I'm not in competition. I will help any way I possibly can. The greatest thing I think is that you're going to try to do something with them.
But the difference is Atlas F is a overwhelming feat to do. A Titan 1 site is just. I mean,
I take my look. He's got a track hoe there, probably with a 40-foot dig. I mean, my God! And then he's got a front end loader to choke a horse. I mean, the equipment he has. I can't fathom the cost on that stuff. I mean, it's not cheap.
And he's cleaning. I
know. I just used a baby backhoe.
That's right. Yeah.
Granted, and I bought it, and hell, I spent $25,000 on that same thing. So it's like, yeah, I get it.
But the cleaning, the scraping, and the cleaning of the asbestos, like he posted something in the entry silo. I mean, damn, that in itself is, and you're going to do every...
The abatement is unbelievable. In fact, the young man that did own 4C, I had the conversation with him years ago. And I'm going back to 2000. I think he bought it around 1999 or 2000. He would often call me, and we would have the conversation from the standpoint of, how did you get away with doing your sites and didn't have to do all of this? And I would kid him because he turned around and he called, Colorado Environmental and said, "Hey, will you guys come out and clean up all of this stuff at my site?" Yeah. And I often laugh at that, right? And it's like, God, I wouldn't let the cat out of the bag. You know what I mean? If you find it, deal with it, right?
That's right.
Let's move this train further down the track.
There you
go. That would be my quick answer. But anyway, what this guy can do, but back on the subject, what you see now, all of this has changed. Because I stopped and found out, I talked to the owner. He was the original owner. And I stopped and talked to him years and years ago. I was coming through from Washington State back down to Southern Cal, and for some reason, I just pulled off of 99 and went over, and I thought, I'm just going to see if that old man still owns it. And sure enough, I found him. By God, if he wasn't outside. And so we had a nice talk. And then all of a sudden, I had read that he did a land swap, something along the lines. I had heard that's what occurred with Chico.
Right.
That the owner that had everything on the surface had done a land swap, and then, of course, it was cleaned up. And then I talked to somebody that said the bulk of all of that equipment that was on the surface and material, it all went to Truckee, California, and it was sitting in a salvage yard there. But I never double-checked it, never went back up there to really look at it, and
straight salvage, because the pictures, that one video in 95 or 93, they cleaned Chico up or
right.
So is that the equipment you're talking about?
I was there in 84, and I mean, it was a sight to see.
Just garbage.
And from the photographs that I shot, I mean, it was just
trash.
Well, it had just been sitting up there. So can you imagine for nearly 20 years, okay, 19, 18 years, it just been sitting there where it was cut out and left on the surface. So all the years, the rust and the,
Doors open.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Doors open. But I mean, they had the big cranes there. I still remember the cranes at Datum. The ones they used, drag lines. That was it.
Why does Datum look so good and Chico does not look very good?
Well, I think Barry went in there and did a lot of work. Don't kid yourself. I mean, number one is the antenna doors were open at Datum, and then they were closed. The other thing, especially with Datum, that most people do not recognize, if you go back to the Siloworld present-day photographs, those were taken when my grandparents were still alive and in Moses Lake. And I was staying with them, and I would go out there, of course, with the promise that I wouldn't go down. And so you'll see all these different shots. Well, you'll notice all of the white stuff on the ground.